The Niners still haven't hired a defensive coordinator. What's up with that? Good morning. Welcome to the Cohn Zone. I'm Grant Cohn. That's Lowell Cohn. You, me, we're all waiting for Robert Saleh. We're waiting for the 49ers to wait for Robert Saleh. Some people like to seize the moment. Other people like to wait around. And the Niners are waiting around for Robert Saleh. It could work out. They could get Robert Saleh, but he has a second interview scheduled for Friday, 4 days from now. Trent Baalke and the Jaguars taking their time with the 49ers and Robert Saleh. What do you think of this wait that the 49ers are engaged in?
I think it's a mistake. I love Robert Saleh, and he would be a really good defensive coordinator for the 49ers. But I think you got to strike while the iron's hot. Clearly, the Niners are not his first choice. He wants to be a head coach. That's reasonable. He may end up being a head coach. That's to his advantage. In the meantime, while they wait, other candidates have gotten jobs, like Jeff Ulbrich took a job. There are probably others that are not thinking.
Dennis Allen.
Yeah, Dennis Allen. He's not a good head coach, but he is a good defensive coordinator. So there are these live people out there who could probably do better than who could do better than what the Niners had this season. And they're letting these chances go on the hope they can get Saleh. And even if Saleh doesn't get named the head coach in Jacksonville, what's to say he wants to come back to the 49ers?
Yeah.
We don't know that he wants to come back to the 49ers.
Great point. Like, there are other teams that need defensive coordinators. Why are the Niners the most attractive defensive coordinator job? They could pay him a lot of money. So could another. What about Detroit? They just lost. They're probably going to lose Aaron Glenn, who could become the head coach at the Jets. What if Detroit wants to make Robert Saleh an offer? He's from Dearborn, Michigan.
And Detroit's a better team than the 49ers.
And Detroit's a better team than the Niners.
Yeah, and my premise is that after this upcoming season, there's a likelihood, a good chance that Shanahan and Lynch are out. So he'd be coming perhaps just for 1 year. That's very disorienting for his family and for a lot of things. So I think all things considered, this waiting, this passiveness on the 49ers is not encouraging. And I want to make one other point, which you and I made privately the other day. Trent Baalke is the general manager over there in Jacksonville. The Niners fired him. Why would he be in any hurry to name Saleh his head coach? He might want to make the Niners twist in the wind so they lose every opportunity because they're waiting. If I were Trent Baalke, that's exactly what I would do. I would wait and wait and wait, and then finally either name Saleh or not. But in the meantime, screw the 49ers 3,000 miles away. That's what I would do.
Why would he want to help the 49ers? And actually, if he could hurt them, why wouldn't he?
Yeah, they fired him.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think it's a very complicated situation, and I think the 49ers should have taken an action at least a week ago.
Right. I mean, if they were to say, look, we think we have a chance to get Robert Saleh, that's great news. But if it's we got to wait 3 weeks and we may or may not get him, and when we find out, all the other candidates will be gone except for guys that we could promote from our own staff, I don't know that would be worth it, that endeavor.
No, and what's more, I feel more and more that the Niners organization is not all that well. Mm-hmm. And this passivity bothers me. So they might end up having to promote Brandon Staley. I'm not saying they will. We're doing hypotheticals, like they ended up having to promote that poor Sorensen guy. Well, Brandon Staley, what the hell did he bring? I mean, if he was so good, why was the defense so bad? I don't know what he did. So that qualifies him to be the defensive coordinator? It's ridiculous, Iggy.
Yeah, it feels like Sorensen all over again, because with Sorensen, they couldn't get anyone better. They just promoted him from within. He was on Wilkes' staff. Apparently, Wilkes wasn't good enough. Sorensen was helping, and all of a sudden they felt, no, he's better than Wilkes and he's ready for the job. Last year, they didn't think that Staley was good enough. They wanted Sorensen to be the defensive coordinator. Staley was like 1B or the second in command. Now he's better than Sorensen. They keep flip-flopping their opinion on these defensive coaches year after year.
And in fact, Wilkes was better than Sorensen.
He was better than Sorensen.
No, it's the stats are demonstrable.
Mm-hmm.
Iggy, this waiting for Saleh, we could write a play.
Yeah, it's like waiting for Joe or waiting for Guffman.
Yeah, well, forget them. Now we've got a better play called waiting for Saleh.
Yeah, and if you don't get Saleh, you get surprise. You get Brandon Staley.
Really?
I don't know. Maybe other teams are interested in him as a defensive coordinator. I haven't read any reports that he's getting any interest or interview requests to be a defensive coordinator. He was a DC for 1 year for the Rams. They had the number one defense in the league. Then he went to the Chargers and was just a failure in every way. His defense stunk. His offense stunk. He stunk, and he got fired. And now he's here. And now he might be the only option. I mean, if Brandon Staley becomes their defensive coordinator, they really, really should have just kept Steve Wilkes.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you. A lot of people are down on Steve Wilkes. I think his numbers were pretty good, Iggy, And one of the things that bothered me, what Shanahan did when he told him he couldn't be in the booth anymore and he had to come on the sideline. That was humiliating.
Mm-hmm.
It was humiliating. And Wilkes, I never met him, but he struck me as a man of dignity, a dignity. And this was a slap in the face. Shanahan does a lot of slapping in the face. He never looks in the mirror and slaps his own face, but he does a lot of face slapping.
I feel bad for Steve Wilkes. He was the head coach for the Cardinals for 1 year. The team gave him Josh Rosen, who's now at Wharton Law School or Business School. He lost a bunch of games. They fired him after 1 year. He went to Carolina, was the interim head coach, went 6-6, came to the Niners. They fired him after he had the third best defense in the league. It's too bad. I feel for Wilkes.
I think so.
Yeah. And now we're going to have, I'm kind of looking forward to the Niners promoting Brandon Staley because I like when a team does something that's insane and then tries to put a good face on it. Like, no, this is a great thing to do. Why would anyone think that Brandon Staley isn't a good hire? Anyway, and I want to see who goes along with it.
We're getting ahead of ourselves. They're waiting for Saleh.
I know. It would be fun.
Yeah, it'd be fun, but they're waiting for Saleh. We're not waiting for Saleh. Although you would enjoy to have him around. You and he get along great. But waiting for Saleh, and there could be somebody else that we don't know about. So we've given our thoughts on Brandon Staley, but he's certainly not in the center of the frame right now.
No, I just hope he is.
I understand. Yeah, okay.
I'm secretly hoping that Nick Sorensen becomes a special teams coordinator and Staley goes to defensive coordinator, and the Niners really don't change very much about their team at all. I'm also hoping Jake Moody sticks around. I think they should give him one more chance, Dad.
Jake Moody?
Yeah. He's really talented.
Already. I got some ants here. So if you see me looking away, where I live up here in the hills, when it gets cold, the ants come in. So I'm seeing ants, and I got ants on my pants.
Ants in the pants.
So if you see me looking away, I'm fighting with the ants. Okay. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I need a coordinator, an ant coordinator.
All right. So we got a new concept to introduce to football fans, analysts, teams. It's the dread factor.
The dread factor.
You've heard of the X factor. This is the dread factor. Do you want to hear? Do you want to explain where we came up with this?
Yes, I would. I would like to. There are three people I primarily learned football from. Bill Walsh, Fred Van Appen, and my friend Tom Walsh, who won a Super Bowl with the Raiders as their offensive coordinator, although Al, of course, never gave him that title. And I talked to him. Iggy does as well. And I was chatting with him about a week ago, and he said, he's so smart, and he used the word dread. He said, on your roster, you need players that the other team dreads. And because they have to, they don't know what's going to happen on any play, and they have to devote so much attention to that one player, and it helps a lot of other players. So I think we understand what dread is in a player, but what I would like to do with Iggy is, in the four teams remaining, let's name their dread players. And remember, dread is the highest praise. We could also name some dread players who've been eliminated, and then talk about the Niners. Who are their dread players? So, Iggy, why don't you go? Why don't you name some teams that are left and say who their dread players are?
Well, the Eagles right now, they have Saquon Barkley, who's having as good of a year as any running back ever. I think no one wants to face him right now. They also have a second-year defensive tackle in Jalen Carter, who kind of just sealed the game against the Rams with the sack against Stafford late. He's pretty tough to block. I'd say he's a dread player. Those two guys are pretty dreadful.
In the best sense.
In the best sense.
Awe-inspiring in the best sense.
Yes.
And dreadful. What Barkley did to the Rams, Barkley took them apart.
Mhm.
He took them apart. He got through their defense so fast. The Rams were not prepared for that twice.
Mhm.
And if they didn't have Barkley, the Rams actually could have won that game. They scored
Mhm.
enough points. You take away Barkley's, 14 points, 12 plus the 2 PATs. The Rams win that game.
Mhm.
So that's how much dread he brings and he brought to that game. Name another team.
Staying in the NFC, the other team in the NFC Championship game, Jaden Daniels is becoming a dread player. He's just so well-rounded. He can do a little bit of everything. He seems really tough to beat. He doesn't turn the ball over. He goes through his progressions really efficiently. He makes quick decisions. He scrambles. He's fast. He can throw deep. He can throw short. Teams don't really know how to stop him right now. He's dreadful.
He's dreadful. Okay.
Yeah.
AFC.
AFC. Josh Allen.
Oh,
Josh
God.
Allen. I mean, he's great. He doesn't have like a dominant weapon around him. And so when they get close to the goal line, 10 yards away, he just starts running between the tackles, outside the tackles. You can't stop him. He's incredible.
Iggy, he may be the top 1, 2, or 3 dreaded player in the league right
Yes.
now, Josh Allen.
Yes.
Okay. Kansas City.
Well, clearly Patrick Mahomes. Also, I think Travis Kelce in the playoffs. He's incredible. And their defensive tackle, Chris Jones, ends games for them. Those 3 guys are their dread players for sure.
Let's name other noted dread players in the league. I would start with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, the two of them.
Oh, what a combo. I mean, that's a wonderful team, and that was a great game. Neither team, well, I'm saying, of course, the Ravens are crushed that they lost, but I don't think they should be embarrassed. They almost won the game. Poor guy dropped the pass, and they're really good, and they will be good for a while. Derrick Henry's getting a little older, but those are 2 dread players for sure. Okay, other dread
Jahmyr
players.
Gibbs on the running back for the Lions. He's so good. Anytime he gets the ball, if I were the other team, I'd be thinking, "Oh crap! I hope he doesn't go for a touchdown." He's terrific. I mean, there's a lot.
Okay,
Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, those guys.
Nacua is a dread player.
Yeah,
a team dreads to face him. He's so good and he's strong.
Yeah, he's so tough. He's really freaking good. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the Niners. Here are 2 categories on the Niners: current dread players and dread players in the recent past. Let's start with current. Name some current dread players on the 49ers.
Well, George Kittle. George Kittle
question.
is as consistent as any player in the league, and no one really has a player who can cover him. No linebacker, no safety. He's probably the biggest matchup problem in football.
Yeah, so any team that faces the Niners has to dread facing Kittle.
Right.
Anybody else?
I think a lot of teams dread facing Nick Bosa. He's not the best edge rusher, but he's probably one of the top 5 or 6, and he's very good. And if you're missing a starting offensive tackle that week, or one of your offensive tackles isn't that good, Bosa will wear him out.
Okay, clearly a dread player, and you got to account for him. Anybody else?
Yeah, Fred Warner. He played through a broken ankle most of the season, but he most of the time makes it so you can't throw over the middle on the Niners, which is pretty unique.
Okay, so they have currently 3 dread players.
And there's one more. Jake Moody. The Niners really dread him.
I didn't expect that. Yeah, the Niners dread him, not other teams.
No, they're hoping Jake Moody takes the field.
He has self-dread in that case.
Yes.
Okay.
Self-dread.
Formerly dread players. Dre Greenlaw.
Yeah. Hell yes. Great call.
Hell yeah. Now, what I say formally, he may be a future dread player, but I can't count them now. And there's others. I can't count him now because we don't know who he's going to be. He got hurt again when he came back. Another dread player, and probably the biggest one, was McCaffrey. When he was good, for the short period he was good with the Niners, wow, what a player. I mean, what a player and what a pleasure to watch. I'm just afraid he may not ever be him again.
Yeah. And let's talk about the type of dread that he inspired in the other teams. I mean, dread's the perfect word because I almost feel like people overreacted to Christian McCaffrey. You had all these players on the field and teams were double covering him as a receiver. Like he's running swing routes. He's behind the line of scrimmage. And teams are like, oh, you take him if he goes that way, and I'll take him if he goes that way. It's like Brandon Ayuk is destroying you one-on-one, 20 yards down the field, and teams are like, we got to live with that because if Christian McCaffrey, God forbid, catches a check down pass, we're screwed. I've never seen a running back elicit that type of respect and fear and dread running tiny little routes than him. It's incredible.
And Iggy, he deserved it.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So, I mean, I would love to see him return to being Christian McCaffrey because I love to watch him work. But I'm not a doctor. I figure he has a 50-50 chance, Iggy, with his hams, his Achilles, both of them, and then with that knee injury. He's just beginning to get hurt.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid that he's not dreadful anymore, but I want him to be because it's one of my pleasures to watch him play.
Yeah, his season and a half with the Niners was one of the most incredible stretches of any Niner ever. I'm just afraid that he's about to be 29. He's a running back. He's had a lot of wear and tear. He might be at that stage where if it's not one thing, it's the next.
That's what I'm a little afraid of. Are there any potential dread players I'm leaving out?
Well, Charvarius Ward was one a couple of years ago when Steve Wilkes was here. He wasn't this year. We know why. He probably isn't coming back. He has an opportunity to be one again in his career, but probably won't be one for the Niners.
Okay. I would like I'm sorry.
Talanoa Hufanga had moments. He was an all-pro a couple of years ago. He's another guy who's been injured a lot, and he'll be a free agent. He's had dread moments.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to point something out about dread. The Niners have two players on offense that they seem to insist on keeping and playing, Juszczyk and Samuel. Neither one inspires dread.
No.
So when you play against them, when a defense plays against them, you want 11 guys, and you want the skill players to be dreadful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're eliminating dread in two positions right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
They start. So as opposed to X number of potential dread players, you've got X minus 2 with them.
Yes.
That's hard.
Evo was like 3 years ago, but he's not anymore.
He's done. He's cooked. And Juszczyk is it. I'm sorry. The Niners have not kept up with the trends in football. Bill Walsh would have. Get him out of there.
Yeah.
He's a fullback. It's an anachronism. It's a throwback. So you have X minus 2 potential dread players. And again, another one, Brandon Ayuk never was a dread player. He was a very good player.
Yeah.
But he never was a dread player.
I would argue that the reason he was so good is that people didn't dread him and they kind of took him lightly.
I would agree with you.
You know what I mean?
100%, especially when he had CMC on the team.
Yes.
So, and in addition, so he will not bring dread back. He'll bring goodness.
Yes.
But again, who's he going to be?
Right.
He really hurt himself.
Best case scenario, he'll bring goodness.
But he won't bring dreadness.
No, he won't. Jawan Jennings, another very good player who doesn't really bring dread.
Yeah.
You know who does? I think Jordan Mason does. He's a handful to tackle. He's tough.
Yeah. Hey, Iggy. Again, we'll see who he is when he comes back.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Early in the season, he was a dread player. And apparently Shanahan, who has no concept of dread, benched him when the other guy came back. It's among his football sins. That was first of all, humiliating the guy, and he was good, and then overusing McCaffrey. It was just so bad what he did. I would like to talk. I'm sorry,
Is Trent Williams a dread player?
not anymore.
I don't think so either.
Here's why. He may be very good when he's in there, and I'm not good on offensive line play, but he's not in there a lot. And
Right.
what makes you think next season he'll be in there a lot?
Yeah.
So
Agree.
no.
Yeah.
I think Bill would have traded him 2 seasons ago.
Agree.
No, he's not a dread player. I want to give you an example of ultimate dread. Jerry Rice.
Oh.
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 I mean,
Like defensive backs are like losing sleep during the week, knowing I got to face this guy. He's gonna put me out of business.
yeah,
Yeah.
Joe Montana.
Bo Jackson,
Oh, Bo Jackson. I mean, this is dread.
Barry
Right?
Sanders. Yeah.
Barry Sanders.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll tell you another one that he's on a crummy team. Joe Burrow.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Iggy. He's dreadful.
He's incredible. He's really good.
Yeah.
Yep.
These are so what we're not defining dread. We're giving examples of dread, and I think you know what we mean. Okay, can we keep
Randy
going?
Moss at his best, T.O. at his best. I mean, those guys
T.O.
would. I mean,
Kill
one
you.
play.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
May I don't know if I'm lousing.
Ronnie
up,
Lott
this-
hurt you.
I think hurt you, and I think guys before the game were like when you would fight Mike Tyson early on in his career. I think they were nervous facing Ronnie.
Yep.
Ronnie
I
was
wish I had
dreadful.
seen the Ronnie Lott era. I missed the whole thing.
Did I ever introduce you to Ronnie Lott?
No. I thought you loved me.
But we were at that dinner for Carmen Policy that night. Ronnie and I met and we hugged. I didn't introduce you?
I don't think so. You introduced me to Jerry Rice, who I'd met when I was 7, and you introduced me to Eddie, who I'd interviewed over the phone. He was cool. Like
Eddie was nice. Eddie was nice.
Yeah. Anyway. So the Niners got 3. CMC's a potential 4th, although
50-50.
those days might be behind him. There's one player we haven't accounted for. Quarterback.
I was just going to say the quarterback. Okay, let's be very systematic about this. Is he a dreadful player?
When he has a lot of good players around him, at times, yeah, he makes some plays. You can't sack him. He gets away. It's like, how is he doing this? But essentially, he's a dreadful player if he has a lot of dreadful players around him.
Right.
So no,
He's a complimentary player.
he's a complimentary player.
Like, for example, Mahomes can win even if he doesn't have great players around him.
Right.
Josh Allen wins without having great players around him. Purdy can't. They're dreadful.
Yeah.
Purdy does not have that level of dreadfulness. He's a complimentary player. So Iggy, I like him. I believe they can win with him. Maybe they can even win a Super Bowl with him. I don't think they can with this coach, but maybe they could with him. But in and of himself, he's not at the dreadful level that Mahomes or Josh Allen are.
I think he's similar to Hurts in the sense that, I mean, they're completely different quarterbacks, but they're both in like the not quite dreadful tier in the sense that if they're really good complementary players. And if they're in a complementary role where they don't have to be the man and you can have games where they throw 20 passes, give or take, they're great. Those 20 passes are really good and they can do a little bit more. They can do a little bit with their legs, Hurts especially. And I think you saw it with McCaffrey in the backfield with Purdy. Purdy can go really far to the Super Bowl. And with Barkley in the backfield with Hurts just might win the whole thing. It's not like either team needs to actively replace their quarterbacks. They just have to know what they are despite how much they're paying them.
Right, and know how to use them.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. Hurts is an entirely different kind of player to Purdy, but what they ask Hurts to do is limited.
Mhm.
First of all, they have that great running back, and he gets the ball a lot. Hurts can run himself, and he's good swinging out to the right and throwing on the run. He's good at that.
And he's accurate enough on the short passes. Like a lot of mobile guys are just like indecisive, like Justin Fields, indecisive, holds the ball too long. Hurts doesn't do any of that. He'll take all the little short throws and take a couple deep shots, but he's essentially a decisive, conservative, modest quarterback.
And that's a very good thing.
It is.
And Purdy is sort of like that as well.
Yeah, he is.
Neither of them has the dread factor.
That being said, like, if Saquon Barkley were to go down in the first quarter of the NFC Championship game with an ankle injury, and Hurts had to, like, all of a sudden step into the role of being the man and lead, I wouldn't expect him to do very well in that role. And I think that's the problem with paying all that money for a quarterback who's not the man. It can work. You just also have to find, like, the best running back in football. And the Niners and Eagles did, to their credit. But I don't know if the Niners are, I don't know if CMC is going to come back to being that, or if the Niners can do it again with someone else.
Right, and we saw what happened to Purdy without CMC. That's what we saw. It's like what would happen to Hurts without Barkley. So yeah, very, very interesting. So we're not knocking. We both really like Brock Purdy. And look, what we're saying that he needs a really good supporting cast or complementary bunch of guys. Steve Young says that all the time.
Right.
He says it all the time. So we're not saying anything that's out of the ordinary or outrageous.
Yeah, Steve Young never had to play without Jerry Rice for an extended period. I mean, I guess Jerry Rice got hurt a few times, but they were always on the team together. Then he had T.O. at the end of his career. He had some good players around him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even Josh Allen, who people think he doesn't have a lot. He has a lot of good players around him. And the running backs are good. The tight ends are good. Anyway, I'm kind of starting to accept the fact that the Niners are going to pay Brock Purdy a lot of money. I don't think it's the right thing to do, but the Eagles are a really good organization, and they paid Hurts a lot of money. And I wouldn't think that's a good thing to do, but they're still winning. And they've structured their team in such a way that contract isn't hurting them yet.
Okay, we'll see what happens with Purdy's contract. Well, I think there's going to be a lot of drama and discussion about that when we actually know what it is.
Can't wait.
Remember,
Frank,
hold on, Iggy, hold on. It's not our money.
I know. It's not.
Not our money.
It's not. Frank R says more desirable, Niners DC or Jack's head coaching job. Niners have better defensive assets. Fred, Bosa, Lenore, Renardo. 2025 strength of schedule, a factor in decision. 2025 draft capital. Niners more picks, Jack's pick higher.
It's always better to be a head coach and a coordinator.
Right.
You get more money, and money matters. You get more money, and you get more of time. The Niners seem to fire their defensive coordinator once every season. If you go to Jacksonville, you get a 2 or 3 year contract and time.
Exactly. That's the big one. If you come to the Niners, you're not guaranteed to be here beyond 2025.
Right. So it's not even close.
Yeah. All day, every day. Kim says Niners would have lost by 20 any of the last week's games.
I totally agree. They could not have stood up to any of those teams.
And we saw it. They went into Buffalo and gave it their best. It didn't go so well. They're not built to play in the bad weather. Ethan M says hiring Saleh will just enable Kyle to continue being a bad head coach. They need him. They need him, but they shouldn't be. There shouldn't be any less pressure on Kyle. He's the root of the problem.
Totally agree.
I agree. Desperately waiting for a defensive coordinator to save their bacon. Okay, Dad, it's sleeper time. Before we're going to make some picks. Well, you know what? Let's save the sleeper time for picks. I want to run something else by you before we make our picks.
Okay.
I don't know if you've noticed this, but like on social media and on TV and the general discourse surrounding these winners and losers in the playoffs, it seems to me like there's just more interest around the teams and the quarterbacks that lose and the ones that win. Like, I don't know if you saw this, but the Kansas City game with the refs, people were talking. That was a big topic this past weekend. Are the refs in it with Kansas City? What people wanted to debate that one left and right. And the other one was Lamar. He lost. Was it his fault? Is he a bad playoff quarterback? Is he overrated? Is he getting too much criticism? Is he getting not enough criticism? And that's a very interesting conversation. That's why people engage in it. But what about the team that won? Josh Allen. It seems like it's kind of boring. Like, okay, well, good for you, but why don't we tear this team apart over here? It's always fun to do. Do you think that losers are inherently more interesting than winners?
No question.
Yeah.
Okay, let me talk about it as a journalist. When I would cover a game, if if any of the local teams won, let's say the Niners,
Mhm.
gee, Joe Montana was great, Steve was great, and you're right, you praise him a lot. Or when the Warriors were winning, Curry's great. He's great. He scored 36 points. You sort of write that article. If they lose, people lose in very unusual ways often. There's the conflict you're looking for in your narrative.
Right.
Also, how does a super athlete react to losing?
Mm-hmm.
When you win, it's easy to say, God, I want to thank my offensive linemen.
Yeah.
We come in,
It's not about me.
it's not about me. We work hard every day. I'm going to give them a bunch of trucks and all of this. But when you lose, who's a stand-up guy?
Mm-hmm.
Who's the stand-up guy? Who faces you? Who faces himself? Who who faces his teammates? Character comes out in loss. That's why Shakespeare's greatest plays were the tragedies. Character comes out in a loss. It comes out in the mini tragedy of sports. I didn't want teams to lose, but when I wrote, I was better on the tragedy of loss because there was more conflict, there was more emotion than I was in the Stephen Curry's really good.
And there's been some serious tragedy, like not tragedies, but like sports tragedies happening in
Yeah.
the playoffs. Sam Darnold, tragic.
Oy
Jared
gavah.
Goff, tragic.
Yeah.
And it is interesting. It is like more interesting to say, because I mean, Josh Allen's a great story, and if he wins the Super Bowl, people will talk about him. But right now, the story is Josh Allen's really good, and we knew that.
Yeah.
But the other story is Lamar Jackson not as good as we thought?
Right.
That's a great conversation starter, because you got a lot of people being like, no, it's not his fault. He's great. And you got people being, what are you talking about? How are you going to give him a pass? And boom, that's a conversation you could have for a week. The
Right.
Josh Allen conversation lasts about 90 seconds.
Right. And talk about like on Twitter or a podcast. If you
Yes.
had Josh Allen's really good, you wouldn't get that many viewers. But
Right.
especially in Baltimore, if you had the one about Lamar Jackson, it would go on all day.
So it's
For what
podcast culture.
It's human nature.
Human nature.
It's
love it.
human nature.
Human nature.
That's how we said it. Human nature. It's not podcast culture. It's human nature. That's what I think. And I love it.
Go ahead. I first noticed this when I was covering a playoff game in Dallas. The Niners won. This was about 3 years ago. I was waking up the next morning. I had the TV on as I was waiting for my Uber. And on ESPN, they were talking about what the loss meant for the Cowboys. And it just cracked me up. Like, it means their season's over. It means we need to talk about the 49ers because they're going to play next week. But you couldn't just give up on the losing team just yet. You got to deal with that carcass.
The other thing that I find very intriguing about these playoffs, and I'm glued to them, I have to say, there are a lot of good teams that got beat last weekend, and they're out. They're history. They're dismissed. They got dismissed. The world of these playoffs is so brutal. It's so brutal. You don't get a participation trophy. You go back to your locker room and you feel bad, and sometimes maybe grown men cry. And I think it's so interesting and so touching. And I like the fact that teams get dismissed, excluded, you're gone, bye-bye, go on vacation. Wow. There's a lot at stake in terms, not of money, but in terms of who am I? Who am I? Who are we?
Right.
Who are we? And Iggy, let me just finish. I think there's not enough of that going on the 49ers.
Yeah.
Who am I? Who are we? Who do we want to be? I think Shanahan should be asked. Bill Walsh would have been up and down, his walking, thinking, brooding. Who am I? Who do I want to be? How do I get to be that coach? I hope Shanahan's doing it, because that's how you need a goddamn do it.
You know what the mark of a coach who's asking those hard questions of himself? Moving the defensive coordinator to special teams coordinator. That's the mark of a guy who's really asked hard questions and faced himself. I agree, though.
Iggy,
That's
would
it.
would you agree sometimes it's very hard to face yourself?
It is very hard to face yourself. That's why people pay so much money to go to therapy and have someone assist them doing it, because it's hard.
I'm still in therapy. It's almost 3 years since my wife died, and I go every Wednesday. And I have a lot of grief to talk about, and a lot of who am I and where's my life going. So boy, do I understand those questions a lot. I understand those questions a lot, and I live with them, Iggy. I do.
Yeah. I do think that the Niners culture that Kyle's built is to pretty much avoid this question. We had
I
injuries.
think so. Yeah.
We came close. We were a couple plays away. Hey, what do you want? We went to the Super Bowl. Do you know how hard it is to get to the Super Bowl? I mean, other teams didn't make it to the Super Bowl. You name another team that's as good as us, other than the Chiefs. I mean, they give themselves every out and every break, and I think that's kind of why they've been doomed for second place at best.
Bill Walsh told me about his cycle as a coach, his psychological cycle. And I put it in a chapter in my book that I wrote about him like 20 years ago, more than 20, 30 years ago. I don't know. He said after a game on Sunday, or when he was in college on Saturday, instead of if he won or lost, either way, he would get over the initial feelings of that Sunday, let's call it. By Monday, he'd go into a depression. He had put everything that he had into that game. And he would go for a few days and feel, I can't do it again. I don't have the resource inside me to do it again. I'm really not that good. I'm really not that good. And then by the end of the week, he would tell himself, you've got to get over these feelings to coach the next game. And he told me he thought having to overcome those feelings made him better prepared for the next game. But his season was a series of ups and downs and ups and downs. And when he told me about it, he even suffered as he explained it.
He sounds like a confident guy who lacks self-esteem because of whatever happened in his childhood. And the fact that he had to prove it to himself weekly is probably one of the big reasons he was so great. His insecurity.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
From what he told me about himself is that his father was very hard on him.
Right.
I don't think he liked his father.
Withholding.
And there might even have been some hitting.
Right.
I'm not clear, but I would. And the reason I say that is Bill didn't like anyone to touch him. He and I never touched. I knew him a long time. We would shake hands, but we would never touch. And then one time he invited me to lunch in Palo Alto. And as we walked to our table, he put his arm around my shoulders. And I was so aware that he had never touched me before. And I knew something was up with him. And a few weeks later, he told me he had leukemia.
Oof. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good instinct on that one.
Yeah.
Okay. We got one super chat, and then we'll take some sleeper picks, and we'll make our championship game picks. Alejandro Buenrostro says them waiting on Saleh for an answer shows how unserious they are on actually getting better.
I agree 100%. Waiting for Saleh, it could be a hit on Broadway, waiting for Saleh.
Yeah, and I like that, like getting better. Even at best, he's someone you had before. It's like you're trying to make America great again. You're trying to harken back to the past. What about the next move? Because even best case scenario, he comes here, he does a good job, he's a head coach somewhere else. Next season, you're looking for another coordinator.
I love it, Iggy. I love it. Right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now it is sleeper time. Get the little thing on the screen. Boom. Okay. First game, Washington, Philly. Saquon Barkley having a good season. They have the over-under, the more or fewer, set at 129.5 rushing yards. 129.5.
Iggy, let me ask you a question. Washington's defense, is it good?
Statistically, it's mediocre and not particularly good against the run.
I'm going to say more.
Yeah. I like it.
Iggy, he is some running back.
Yeah.
God, do I love to watch him work.
He's one of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, me too.
Jalen Hurts, passing yards, 183.5.
No.
Jaden Daniels, passing touchdowns, 1.5.
Yes. Over.
What do you think of him?
What a talent, Iggy. He's a rookie, right?
Yeah.
Now, rookies flame out eventually, but I think this could be the next Patrick Mahomes.
He really could be. He looks so
Iggy,
composed.
What a player. Yeah, it's hard to imagine he's a rookie.
Like, we all liked CJ Stroud last year, and this year he came back to earth. Daniels does seem a lot better than CJ Stroud and Caleb Williams.
I agree.
Yeah. Did you see that Ben Johnson went to the Bears?
Yeah, all of a sudden the Bears might be pretty good.
They might be. They got him and Dennis Allen. All right. Josh Allen. Let's do passing yards, rushing touchdowns. What do you like? Passing yards, 229.5.
Oh, more.
Oh, more. Yeah. How about Travis Kelce, 69.5 receiving yards?
More. He's astonishing in the playoffs.
He's astonishing in the playoffs. All right, let's do those. Boom. Those are the picks. Download the app. Use promo code Cohn, COHN. Get entered to win a signed George Kittle jersey, which is right over my right shoulder. All right, let's make our picks for the final game, the final week.
Okay.
Till the Super Bowl. First one. Washington, Philly. Who do you like?
You want me to go first? No, Iggy, let's start with the AFC. Would that be okay?
Kansas City, Buffalo.
Okay. I'm going to say Buffalo, even though it's in Kansas City. And I have one specific reason. Of course, I respect Kansas City. They're terrific, and I admire them. I don't think they can score as fast or as much as Buffalo. This season, it strikes me that Kansas City wins all the time, but they don't score a lot, and they don't have deep threats or fast deep threats. And it seems to me that Buffalo will outscore them, and they can't keep up with Buffalo. So that's my layperson's opinion. What do you think?
I mean, they did play each other week 11, and Buffalo won 30-21, to your point. They just outscored them. But that game was in Buffalo. I'm not sure that there's going to be that big of a difference in what Kansas City does at home. But it does seem like they're the kind of team that they play significantly better in the playoffs. They're older. Well, their key players are older. And it seems like they pace themselves. Like Travis Kelce doesn't do much. And then all of a sudden in the playoffs, he's the same Travis Kelce you've always known. So I have a tough time picking against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. They always seem to find a way. And their defense is great, even though they gave up 30 points to the Bills in Buffalo this year. Also, there's a Taylor Swift factor, Dad. You have to factor in the Taylor Swift factor. Because clearly, have you heard this theory? This is a good one. So the NFL isn't as popular with Gen Z as it is with millennials and Gen X and the boomers. And Roger Goodell's trying to grow the audience, which is why he's putting games in Germany and Mexico. And he's trying to get into that Gen Z market. And his ambassador is Taylor Swift. Because if Taylor Swift is at a football game, then my 12-year-old niece is going to care about the football game. Although I'm not sure that she will. What do you think of that theory?
I don't know. Here's the thing, Iggy. I've heard the name Taylor Swift. I mean, I know I see her at the games and stuff. I've never heard her sing. Now, is it because I'm an old guy? I mean, I know the Rolling Stones.
I think she's more geared towards Camila.
That's our 12-year-old, my granddaughter, his niece.
Yeah.
And by the way, we're having dinner with her and Sam, who's 14. We're taking them out to dinner tonight.
Pizza
is apparently New York style pizza. I'll be the judge of that. Anyway, Iggy, is Taylor Swift good?
I mean, she's not to my taste, but
Yeah.
a lot of people like her. So she's dating Travis Kelce, and a lot of people think that the Chiefs get all kind of calls. Although I don't really buy into that. Do you think that the NFL is subconsciously, consciously giving Chiefs a break because Taylor Swift is going to be a game changer for the league? I don't know.
I sure hope. I sure hope not, because I would like to feel these games are on the level. I
Yeah.
have a lot. I can't say invested in terms of emotion, but I'm invested. I watch them. I I'm intrigued, and I would like to think it's not loaded. It's not fixed.
You did watch the Kansas City game. I mean, that was a tough one to watch.
Some really bad calls that went for Kansas City, and you couldn't miss it. And was it Aikman or somebody said I couldn't disagree more with
Yeah.
that call?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know what was going on.
I'm picking Kansas City. Should we put wine on this? Kirkland wine.
Well, can we talk about it? Yes.
We'll talk about Kirkland wine in a minute.
Okay. So we disagree on that. I'm going for Buffalo, and you're going for Kansas City. I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we come to the NFC. Okay. Here's what I think. I'm going for Washington, and I'm going to say why. I think they have by far the better quarterback.
Yeah.
Now, Philadelphia has that running back, but I don't feel that Hurts is in the league of the Washington guy. Washington is improving all the time, where Philadelphia is very good on the offense and defensive lines. I don't find their passing game particularly outstanding or interesting. I think both head coaches, neither one calls plays. Both of them are really good for what they do. I think the Washington coach ought to be coach of the year, Iggy.
I agree. He's such a good coach. He's doing a great job.
What he did. Wow. So anyway, Mike, I'm more confident in my AFC pick. My NFC pick is a gut feeling. It's a gut feeling, but it's a strong feeling. So I'm going for Washington. Who are you going for?
I'm going for Philly. And I agree with everything you said about the quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels is better than Jalen Hurts. It's just that it seems like this is the year of the running back, and running the ball seems to be highly correlated with winning right now. And I'm looking at Washington's defense. They give up 201 on the ground to Detroit last week, 101 on the ground to Tampa the week before that, 228 on the ground to Dallas the week before that, 211 on the ground to Atlanta the week before that, like 127 on the ground to Philly about a month ago. And that was a game that Hurts got hurt. Hurts got hurt and missed most of the game.
Hurts got hurt.
If you can't stop the run well, and this is a team that gave up like almost 2,400 yards on the ground, you're going to have a tough time against Saquon Barkley. I think that he is going to win this game for Philly, and they have a really good defense.
Okay, I would say this. Fred Van Appen, again, who I learned a lot of football from, said if a defense cannot stop the run, everything is open to an offense. Every possibility comes off the fact that the other team can't stop your run. So that would certainly support your point. Okay.
Yeah, I think Washington's sort of in the same predicament that the Rams were in.
Got it.
Yeah.
Iggy, you want to make a bet on this?
Yeah.
How would it work, this bet? I think, may I say, you'd have to have both your choices right, both your picks right.
That's true. If we split, then it's wine.
A push.
Yeah.
It's a push.
But if either of us sweep, then we got to go make a Costco run.
Okay. So if you sweep, you get a bottle of Costco Barolo.
Costco Barolo. And if people don't know, it's $20. Check it out.
$20. Here's the deal. Iggy and I, we went to Costco the other day because I needed stuff, and he kept me company. I love Kirkland wines. They actually have real winemakers make them, and some of them are really cheap, and they're never bad. They're almost never what you'd call great, but they can be very good. And we got, like, for example, a Barolo, which is it's an Italian wine, and they have it made in Italy. And a Barolo is a red wine that is among the great red wines of the world, can compete with French wines. They have one at Costco for $20. I mean, you could pay $200-300 for a Barolo. And we tasted it, and it was good. It was really good, and it was certainly worth the $20. So we make Costco runs just to get. We got a Sauvignon Blanc, and it only can be Kirkland brands. It can't be other brands that's selling. We got a Sauvignon Blanc for $4.99. We try to stay under $10, but we'll expand if necessary. It's a game we play. So Iggy, whoever wins, the other guy owes him a $20 Barolo from the Kirkland brand at Costco.
Love it. Can't wait to do that. That'll be a lot of fun. I also get the Kirkland brand tequila añejo, which is very good too. It's like $25 for a big bottle. And we get the hot dogs, which are great.
Oh, that's the other thing. And I have a one gripe about that.
Yeah.
Costco's
I got the same gripe.
Fun. We go to the San Leandro Costco. So I always eat for like $1.50. You get a really good kosher style hot dog on a good bun. And you get a drink. You know, it's a Coke or a Pepsi. I don't know what it is. So, and then you put the mustard on, and you put the accoutrements. First of all, they don't have the spicy mustard, you know, the Gouldens that you would have in Brooklyn that you would put on a hot dog. They have the regular French's, whatever, yellow. And they don't have sauerkraut. It's so not New York. Having said that, I still love it. You can get, Iggy got onions on it. This I don't understand at all. And you can get relish as well.
Mom put onions on it. She's the one that opened me up to that. I like it.
She was from San Leandro. Your mother was from San Leandro. Yeah.
She got more in common with me then. All I know is at Top Dog, they got freaking onions there, and I'm putting what they got. It's free. I'm putting it on there. It gives it something. Ethan M says I'm getting married in 2 weeks. Any advice? You got him, Dad?
I do. You're inevitably in a marriage, you have fights. You can't say we never fight. That's horseshit. You have fights. But the key is you got to make up. You got to repair it. And you really try to repair it before you go to sleep, even if it means taking the blame.
I like that. David Kindle Jr. says Niners are screwed when it comes to the DC coach.
Well, that may be a little premature. They're walking towards screwed.
They're strolling towards screwed.
They're strolling as they waiting for Saleh.
Yeah, whistling towards screwed as they casually. Yeah. Well, it's interesting how Saleh has the Niners waiting and Trent Baalke. Do you think Trent Baalke is aware of what he's doing to the Niners? Yes.
100%. 100%.
They're waiting for this opportunity.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, you need me to make up my mind.
Yeah. Oh, and that I should accommodate you and do it fast. You know, I have an ingrown toenail, and I need to work on that.
You know, we can't interview him until Friday. I'm just, you know, my daughter's got a soccer game and some things I can't move around, but we'll get to him.
Yeah. Yeah, I really want to help you guys out because you were so nice to me. But you know, I'm going as fast. Believe me, trust me. I want to be honest here. I'm going as fast as I can.
All right. Well,
you think
all I ask is that the Jaguars hire Saleh and the Niners promote Brandon Staley to defensive coordinator. I don't ask for that much, and I would like them as a little twist to re-sign Jimmy Garoppolo. Bring him back. You need a backup quarterback. The show's getting a little stale without him. He was a fan favorite. Bring him back.
Right, bring him back. And hey, listen, while they're reaching back in the past, maybe they could bring back Steve Young. And
I think
Joe,
that'd be
they
great.
can have that fight all over again.
Hell yeah! A real reboot. NorCal Refrigeration and HVAC says any comparisons between 81 Niners and the Commoners. 81
Didn't
Niners.
the 81 Niners win the Super Bowl?
They did win the Super Bowl.
They won the Super Bowl. Wasn't their quarterback Joe Montana?
Yeah, it was his third year. Daniels is a rookie. They had a great defense. I don't know if the Commanders have a great defense, but no one saw him coming. Liam Cohn going to be the head coach of the Jags, predicts Matt McEwen. I don't know. Their last couple of coaches have been offensive coaches. A lot of times teams that are flailing and have no idea what they're doing go offense, defense. So they might be on defense this year. Say. Liam Cohn, good name though, not Jewish.
No, Irish.
Irish, which is good too.
You got
I got a little
Irish
bit
in
of
you.
that.
You
I
got
got a little bit.
Irish in you.
All right, Dad, we've run out of things to talk about, but it was a great show. You did great, and I love you.
Was it our best ever?
Yes, it was. Great show.
I love you too. Have a nice day.
All right, Dad. Have a nice day, everyone.